So, guys, can I ask a question without getting raked across the coals? I know it's probably going to happen anyways, but I thought I'd ask. Am I the only one that would have been okay with Brian being replaced as a character on the show? Listen, just like with all the other ones, he just became this character that was disliked after a certain amount of time. Now, early stages, Family Guy Brian would have hated to have seen him go. But the later stage one, especially because in the same season in which they bring him back, he proceeds to give Stewie and Chris something that I can't even talk about on here because it's so gross to me. And not people with that condition. I'm saying they made that condition. They really assisted in the demonization of that condition. If you know about that episode, you know I'm not going to talk about it because it gave me the ultra mega ick. Like, I actually genuinely enjoyed Vinny as a character, and I know he's voiced by one of the Sopranos, and I actually really did like the Sopranos, believe it or not. I enjoyed that show a lot, so I enjoyed hearing his voice, but he genuinely did seem to care about the family. He even tries to accommodate Stewie missing Brian, and even his impression of Brian is so lackluster, but Stewie says that's Brian, alright? And it's just like, okay, so why did we miss this character so much? Because I feel like they did the same thing they did with all the other characters in Family Guy, where they made them more and more unlikable over the years. Lois is a terrible mother, Peter is a wretched father, Chris is a product of his environment, and so is Meg. Like, I still firmly believe that. I love that episode where she got out of jail and Connie and them were making fun of her, and yeah, I bet they couldn't look at soda for quite some time after that. That's all I'm going to say about that. And not to mention, when they did bring Brian back, he proceeded to do really messed up stuff, like give Chris and Stewie that incurable thing that I can't even talk about on here because honestly, this episode grossed me out so badly. Not people with that condition, but a lot of people with that condition complained about that particular episode because they're like, gee, thanks. I already felt disgusting. Thanks for making it worse. Because they made it really worse. One of the teacher's words to Stewie was, your mouth looks like the bottom of a boat. Oh, gross. Just gag. Just gag. And he knows he has this, and he willingly infects them. So I'm like, I would have been happier with Vinny being the permanent replacement, in all honesty. And I don't really get what the big hype over him was. Now, early phases of Family Guy Brian, I would have hated to see him go. Be completely honest. But when it came to the later seasons, I would have been actually very happy for him to get replaced. And Vinny seems like he wouldn't have put up with Quagmire's judgmental attitude because Brian really didn't just have to take that from Quagmire. Oh, how's your daughter then? You want to talk about my son? Wait, you want to talk about me being a dog and pooping on the lawn? You steal her undergarments. You think we don't know that you do that weird stuff? You don't have your own spinoff series because we know damn well the fans will be in an uproar. Dude, if you do not get out of my face. Like, Brian didn't just have to take that. There's a lot of times where Brian was treated unfairly in the show, but there were a lot of times where you kind of feel like he had it coming due to his own actions, like that time he noticed that a mother had a baby and let something happen. It's like, wow, dude, come on. He became more and more unlikable, just like they did to, I think they did the same thing to Peggy Hill, where she falls out of a plane and survives and becomes extremely narcissistic. And it seems like they did the same thing with Brian. After he came back, he's just even worse. And it's like, wow, you could have just kept him. But a lot of people were outraged by this. There were tributes to him and everything. And I'm just sitting here like, was I literally the only person in the world who knew this was a stunt? Like, I knew that the ratings were tanking, and I said, let me guess, the ratings are tanking, so they're doing this to breathe life back into the show, so people will mourn Brian, and all this other publicity will be gotten out of this, and oh boy, was I ever right. They brought him back 2 episodes later, and for anyone's like, oh, BS, you didn't know that, it was pretty obvious if you had 2 brain cells and really thought about it. They off a main character. Every time that's happened, they've come right back. And Freddie was like, oh, what about the manner that those were side main characters completely different? Like, when it comes to Neil's mom, like, when it came to her, that was a well-known character, but she was still a side. Any other main characters that met their end were trying to be written out of the show. That's the only time they really do that. So I was like, they're not actually writing Brian out of the show. He's too important to the story. Just like in, I don't know if anyone saw Bloodsea, where Nene and Nono were explaining, we're main cast roles. That means we're very important to the story. We've made it, but no, don't assume anyone else has. That's the thing. I knew it was a publicity stunt. The minute I said, and they're like, oh, Brian, I'm just sitting there rolling my eyes like, guys, he'll be back soon. I know he'll be back soon. And yeah, 2 episodes later. Oh, magically Stewie's time machine is. I was like, yep, everything we thought. They found a way around it to make it so it's next to impossible, but there's going to be some magical universal shot. And yeah, exactly. And it's like, I didn't really get why Meg was catching most of the fire here. It's like, guys, this whole being mean to Meg for literally no reason has got to stop. Like, Meg really needs to go through like a rocker edge phase where she just starts going at people for talking to her the way they talk to her and her parents especially. Her parents especially. I know a thing or two about standing up to parents. Like, they need to give Meg something at some point. This whole, Meg's just, shut up, Meg. It's like, what was the point of doing that constantly? And then the one time she stood up for herself, she resigned herself to a terrible fate so her family didn't turn on one another, and they deserved it. I would have liked to have seen her just let that play out. Like, no, now you guys can work through your own issues and not just use me as a punching bag. But when it comes to this replacement, I actually would have been very okay with this replacement. I would have eventually gotten used to him. I had already started getting used to him. He was really wearing on me. He was actually a very, 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 very good character, and I really, really enjoyed him. And I enjoyed him more in those 2 episodes, or 3 to 2 episodes, depending on how you see it, episodes we got, than I did with Brian in that entire season. And I don't feel bad saying it, because Brian did nothing but horrible things afterwards. At one point, he even only marries a cancer patient because he thinks that she's going to leave this world. And when she doesn't, and then she doesn't exactly resemble what he's into, he's all upset and trying to find a way out of it. And then he feels so betrayed when she wants to take him to the pound. It's like, dude, come on. Like, Brian wasn't a missable character, in my opinion. Early phases Brian, yes. Later stage Brian, no. But tell me what you guys think in the comments down below. I would have been very okay with seeing this change. And I would have loved, I don't know if they did this. Maybe they did and I missed it. I would have loved if we could have seen Vinny with another family, potentially. Maybe they did and I just forgot. Let me know. That would have been great to see him, to have 2 talking dogs on the show. And yes, I do like Vinny. He's a very, very likable character. I understand a lot of people didn't like the stereotypes in there, okay? I understand that a lot of people didn't like, but Family Guy isn't exactly the most sensitive type of show around. Like, you know, there's that. So, yeah, I just really think that maybe they should have stuck with this for a bit longer. And maybe Vinny should have had another place in the show. Maybe they just couldn't afford the voice actor. I'm not even gonna lie. Maybe they just couldn't pay him. Maybe they could. Who knows? But I really would have preferred to see this. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below.